Nestled in the southeastern hills of Zimbabwe, the massive stone ruins of Great Zimbabwe rise from the savanna like the bones of a forgotten kingdom. For centuries, they puzzled explorers, colonizers, and archaeologists alike. But behind these granite walls lies the story of a proud African civilization, an empire built by ingenuity, sustained by trade, and remembered through stone. Great Zimbabwe was founded around the 11th century by the ancestors of the Shona people, specifically the Gokamir or leopard's copy culture. These Bantu-speaking agriculturalists and cattle herders had settled in the region centuries earlier. Over time, they evolved socially and economically into a centralized state. The name Zimbabwe is derived from the Shona phrase Zimba Dza Mabwe, which means houses of stone. This phrase encapsulates both the architectural ingenuity and the cultural sophistication of the people who built the city. Between the 11th and 15th centuries, Great Zimbabwe developed into a stone metropolis. Its three major architectural zones, the hill complex, the valley ruins, and the great enclosure, reflect a hierarchy of power and space. Constructed using a technique called dry stone walling, these structures used no mortar, only the skilled arrangement of granite blocks. The Great Enclosure, the largest ancient structure in sub-Saharan Africa, features a massive circular wall over 800 feet in circumference and 36 feet tall, housing the iconic conical tower. The architectural precision and scale of the structure made it a symbol of elite power, religious authority, and technological prowess. Royal courts and ceremonial sites, the hill complex, likely the earliest part of the city, functioned as a royal residence and sacred site. The enclosures housed elite families, religious leaders, and the king, known as the Mambo. Archaeological finds such as soapstone birds, believed to symbolize ancestors or spiritual authority, suggest the fusion of governance and spirituality in Shona society, a kingdom built on trade and wealth. The location of Great Zimbabwe was no accident. It lay at the crossroads of key trade routes connecting the gold-rich interior of southern Africa to the Indian Ocean via the Swahili coast. The kingdom controlled vast gold mines in regions like Sofala and Munhumatapa and traded cattle, ivory, and iron as well. Arab, Persian, and Indian merchants were common trading partners. In return, Great Zimbabwe received beads, silk, Chinese porcelain, and Islamic glassware. These exotic imports have been found in archaeological digs, proving its global reach, economic backbone, and resource control. The wealth of Great Zimbabwe wasn't just from trade, it was also rooted in resource management. The kingdom had a robust economy powered by cattle herding, iron smelting, agriculture, and mining. Gold and copper were extracted from nearby rivers and hills, and these resources became the empire's economic engine. Villages surrounding the central city paid tribute in the form of labor, grain, or cattle. This enabled the elite class to focus on governance, trade, and diplomacy. Diplomatic influence and regional dominance. Great Zimbabwe's political reach extended far beyond its walls. It had strong diplomatic ties with coastal trading cities like Kilwa, Malindi, and Mombasa, and likely influenced smaller chiefdoms across the Zambezi River. Through diplomacy and conquest, it secured access to ports and ensured safe passage for traders. The Mambo governed through a council of nobles and religious advisors, and the royal court was a center of policy and international negotiation. Although written records are scarce, oral traditions and archaeological evidence point to a well-organized and hierarchical administration, social structure, and daily life. The society was stratified. The elite lived within the stone enclosures while the common people lived in mud and thatch huts on the outskirts. Women played crucial roles in agriculture, pottery, and trade. Children were educated in oral history, crafts, and farming. Music, dance, and storytelling were central to social life. Military strength and defense. Though Great Zimbabwe was largely peaceful, it maintained a capable military. The Mambo commanded an army made up of warriors from surrounding communities. Their primary roles included protecting trade routes, defending against rival tribes, and enforcing the king's rule. Weapons included iron spears, bows, shields made from animal hide, and later, cavalry using domesticated horses. The central stone city provided natural fortification, while outposts were maintained in strategic areas. The rise of the Mutapa state. As the 15th century dawned, the once thriving capital began to face environmental and political pressures. Overgrazing and deforestation led to soil exhaustion. Water sources were depleted due to increasing urban demands. Trade routes began to shift toward the Zambezi River, where new powers emerged. One of these was the Kingdom of Mutapa, established by a former prince of Great Zimbabwe. Mutapa inherited the wealth, traditions, and political structure of Great Zimbabwe, becoming a dominant force in the region. Colonial myths and historical erasure. When European colonists first encountered the ruins in the late 19th century, they refused to believe they were built by black Africans. Racist theories suggested the ruins were the work of Phoenicians or Arabs. These myths were debunked by scientific archaeology in the 20th century. Artifacts, architecture, and cultural practices all pointed clearly to a Bantu-speaking African origin. Despite overwhelming evidence, colonial narratives sought to suppress the African legacy of Great Zimbabwe. Today, Great Zimbabwe stands not just as a symbol of past glory, but as a beacon of African heritage. It inspired the name of modern Zimbabwe and is featured on its national flag and currency. The site is a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure and a rallying point for cultural pride. Museums, schools, and artists continue to celebrate the site's legacy, reconnecting Africans with their pre-colonial greatness and educating the world about a history carved in stone. Great Zimbabwe's walls may be silent, but they speak volumes about African civilization. They tell a story of innovation, wealth, diplomacy, and resilience. They remind us that African history didn't begin with colonization, but with mighty kingdoms that thrived, traded, ruled, and dreamed long before the world acknowledged their greatness.